The beginning. The night was quiet in the small town of Ashwood. The streets were empty, and the only sound came from the old streetlights buzzing faintly in the wind. Far away in the thick forest outside the town, a man named Mr. Harris was walking home from his workshop. He was a simple mechanic, a man who fixed broken cars and old machines. He lived alone with no wife, no children, and no family left. Most people in town called him quiet, maybe even strange, but they also knew he had a kind heart. That night, as he walked along the dirt path that led past the forest, something caught his attention. A faint cry. At first he thought it was an animal, but then he heard it again, soft, frightened voices. They were not animal cries. They sounded like children. Mr. Harris stopped, listening carefully. His heart began to beat faster. Who would leave children out here in the dark? He moved deeper into the forest, pushing through the bushes, following the sound, and then he saw them. Two small figures sat under a tree, huddled close together. They could not be more than 5 years old. A boy and a girl. Their clothes were torn and their faces were pale as if they had been wandering for days. The boy was holding the girl's hand tightly, trying to keep her calm. When Mr. Harris stepped closer, both children looked up at him, and in that moment he froze. Their eyes were glowing, not bright like a flashlight, but soft, like silver light under the moon. For a second, Mr. Harris thought he was imagining it. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and looked again. The glow was real, and the strange marks on their foreheads, shaped almost like stars, were glowing faintly too. The boy pulled his sister closer, as if to protect her. He said something in a language Mr. Harris had never heard before. The words were sharp and smooth, almost like music, but not from this world. Mr. Harris felt a chill run down his spine. These were not ordinary children. But when he looked at their faces, he also saw fear, hunger, and loneliness. He remembered what it felt like to be alone, to have no one. Slowly, he knelt down. "It's all right," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The boy stared at him with suspicion, but the girl tilted her head, studying his face. Finally, she whispered something to her brother, and the boy loosened his grip just a little. Mr. Harris opened his arms. "Come with me. You can't stay out here." The children hesitated, but then the girl stood up. She took a small step forward, her silver eyes watching him closely. The boy followed, still holding her hand. That night, Mr. Harris took them home. His house was small and simple, but it was warm. He gave them food, bread, milk, and soup. The children ate quickly, as if they had not eaten in days. When they were done, they sat by the fire. Mr. Harris tried to ask them their names, but they only spoke in their strange language. After some time, the boy pointed at himself and said, "Arin." Then he pointed at his sister and said, "Lyra." "Arin," Mr. Harris repeated softly. "Lyra," the children nodded. That night, after they fell asleep on the couch, Mr. Harris sat by the window, staring out at the forest. His mind was heavy with questions. Who were they? Where did they come from? And why did their eyes glow like stars in the night? But one thing he knew for sure: he could not tell anyone. If the townspeople discovered the truth, they would never accept these children. Worse, someone might try to take them away to use them for something dark. So Mr. Harris made a decision. He would raise them as his own. He would keep their secret safe. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Arin and Lyra began to learn English slowly but surely. They laughed when Mr. Harris made silly mistakes while teaching, and soon their voices filled the quiet house with life. But even as they smiled and grew, strange things continued to happen. Sometimes the lights flickered when they were upset. Sometimes objects moved slightly when they waved their hands without touching them. And sometimes, late at night, Mr. Harris heard them whispering to each other in that same unknown language. He never told them, but he always listened. And deep down he feared what it might mean. One evening, as the fire burned low, Mr. Harris caught Arin looking out the window at the stars. The boy's glowing eyes reflected the night sky. Lyra joined him, holding his hand. Mr. Harris asked gently, "What are you looking at, Arin?" Arin turned to him, his voice soft but certain. "Home." The word struck Mr. Harris like thunder. He wanted to ask more, but before he could, Lyra pulled Arin away and whispered in their secret language. That night, Mr. Harris lay awake in his bed. For the first time, he wondered if he had done the right thing. By keeping them here, was he protecting them? Or hiding them from a world that was already looking for them? And in the darkness outside, beyond the stars, something stirred, something that had been searching for a very long time. The beginning of the twins' journey had only just started. The twins' grow years passed quietly in the small town of Ashwood. Mr. Harris's workshop buzzed with the usual noise of hammers and engines, but now the sound of children's laughter often mixed with it. Arin and Lyra had grown from frightened little kids into curious young teenagers. They worked with him in the garage, cleaning tools, passing him wrenches, and sometimes even fixing small machines themselves. To the people in town, they were simply two orphans taken in by the lonely mechanic. Everyone thought Mr. Harris had finally found a family. Few noticed the strange details. How Arin's reflexes were faster than any boy his age, or how Lyra could solve puzzles that adults struggled with. Mr. Harris noticed. He noticed everything. One morning, a car engine slipped from a hook in the workshop. It was heavy, strong enough to crush a man. Arin, only 12 at the time, jumped forward without thinking. His small hands caught the falling engine in midair. He held it, shaking from the weight, until Mr. Harris pulled it back up. When it was over, Mr. Harris stood frozen. Arin's breathing was fast, his arms trembling, but he had done the impossible. "Arin," Mr. Harris whispered, How did you do that?" The boy only shook his head. "I don't know, it just happened." Mr. Harris didn't press further, but in his heart, fear and pride clashed like fire and water. He was proud of the boy's courage. He was afraid of what it meant. Lyra, too, had her secrets. She was gentle, quiet, and always curious. But when she grew upset, strange things happened. Once, when older children at school teased her, the lights in the classroom flickered and shattered. Another time, when she cried alone, her body blurred for a moment as if she was fading from sight. Mr. Harris tried to comfort her. "You're not strange, Lyra, you're special. Never forget that." But she still whispered to Arin in their secret language, the one Mr. Harris could never understand. The same language they had spoken the night he found them in the forest. The town's questions by the time the twins turned 14, whispers began in town. People had noticed things. Arin could run faster than any boy on the football field. Lyra answered test questions before the teacher had even finished asking them. Their glowing eyes could no longer be explained as a trick of the light. One evening, as Mr. Harris was closing the workshop, two men in black suits walked in. They were tall with blank faces and their voices were calm but sharp. "Good evening, Mr. Harris," one said. "We're from a government department you don't need to know about. We've heard reports about unusual children in Ashwood." Mr. Harris's heart froze. "Children? What children?" He lied. The man smiled coldly. "You've taken in twins, haven't you? We only want to make sure they are safe." "I don't know what you're talking about," Mr. Harris snapped, gripping the door handle. "And even if I did, my family is none of your business." The men exchanged a glance, then left without a word. But their eyes promised they would return. That night, Mr. Harris didn't sleep. He sat by the window with a shotgun beside him, watching the dark street. He knew now that their secret was no longer safe. The hidden box. A week later, Arin and Lyra were cleaning the attic when they discovered a wooden box. Inside was something Mr. Harris had hidden years ago, a small silver pendant shaped like a star, and a folded sheet of metal that looked like no map of Earth. When Arin touched the pendant, it glowed. A holographic image burst into the air showing a royal crest, an emblem of two stars circling each other. Symbols danced across the projection, symbols in the same language the twins often spoke. Lyra gasped. "Arin, this is ours. This belongs to us." Mr. Harris rushed upstairs at the sound of their voices. When he saw the glowing crest, his face went pale. He had kept it hidden since the night he found them, too afraid to face the truth. "I should have told you," he admitted quietly. "I found this with you in the forest. I thought it was alien. I thought it was dangerous. But maybe it's part of who you are." The twins exchanged a look. For the first time, they seemed older, wiser, as if some hidden memory was stirring within them. That night, while Mr. Harris slept, Arin and Lyra whispered by the fire. "This proves it," Arin said. "We're not from here." "I know," Lyra replied, her voice trembling. "But if we're not from here, where do we belong?" Shadows in the dark. The very next day, Mr. Harris noticed the same black-suited men watching from across the street. Their car was parked silently, their eyes following the house. He tried to act normal, but he could feel it in his bones. The hunt had begun. Late that night, as Arin stared out the window, he saw something even stranger. Not just men in cars, but a shadow moving across the sky. Huge, silent, and not of this world. "Lyra," he whispered, shaking his sister awake. "Look." Together they watched as a faint light passed over the town, scanning the earth like a giant eye searching in the dark. The twins held their breath. Far away, in the cold distance of space, something had found their signal, and Earth was no longer safe. Discovery. The nights in Ashwood had grown heavy with silence. Mr. Harris felt it every time he looked out the window. He knew someone was watching. He knew those men in black suits hadn't gone away. And worse, he felt in his heart that something far greater than government agents was now searching for Arin and Lyra. But the children were no longer children. At 15, Arin was tall, strong, and protective of his sister. Lyra was thoughtful, sharp-eyed, and always asking questions about the stars. They knew they were different. They had known it all their lives. But now they wanted answers. One evening, as a storm rolled over the town, thunder shaking the windows, Arin sat with the silver pendant in his hands. The star-shaped charm glowed softly as if it was alive. Lyra leaned closer, her eyes fixed on the shifting light. "Try it again," she whispered. Arin squeezed the pendant, and once more, a holographic map flickered into the air. Symbols spiraled like galaxies, and glowing stars marked paths through the universe. The crest of twin stars appeared again, brighter this time, almost as if responding to their growing strength. Lyra reached out to touch the symbols. Her finger passed through the light, but the projection shifted, rearranging itself. Suddenly, one of the glowing stars pulsed brighter than the rest. It spun slowly, and words appeared in their strange language. Lyra's lips trembled. She read aloud softly. "In the language of their bloodline, Arin and Lyra, children of Orion, heirs to the twin thrones." The words sent a shock through the room. Mr. Harris had been watching quietly from the doorway, his face pale. "What did it say?" he asked, though he already feared the answer. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes filled with wonder and dread. "It says, and we are not just different. We are royal." Questions without answers. The storm outside grew louder, rain hammering against the roof. Mr. Harris sat with the twins by the fire, trying to steady his hands. "Royal? Heirs? This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "You were children in the forest, alone. If you're some kind of alien royalty, why were you left here? Why hide you on Earth?" Arin stared into the flames. "Maybe someone was chasing us," Lyra nodded. "Maybe we were safer here." Mr. Harris's heart twisted. He had raised them, loved them like his own, and now he feared he would lose them to a destiny written far beyond Earth. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "I don't care what that pendant says. You're my children. As long as you're under this roof, you're safe." But even as he spoke the words, he knew they were no longer true. Shadows close. 2 days later, the twins returned from school to find the workshop door broken. Tools lay scattered across the floor, and the air smelled of oil and smoke. "Mr. Harris?" Arin called out. No answer. Lyra's eyes darted to the corner. A shadow moved. A man in a black suit stepped forward, holding a strange device that hummed softly. "You shouldn't have touched the pendant," the man said coldly. "Now everyone knows exactly where you are." Arin stepped in front of Lyra. "Stay away from us." The man smirked. "You think you can stop what's coming? You don't even know what you are." Before Arin could react, Mr. Harris burst in from the back door with his shotgun. He fired once, the blast echoing like thunder. The man staggered back, dropping the device, and then fled into the night. Mr. Harris locked the door, his hands shaking. "We don't have much time, they know. More will come." The first signal that night, Arin studied the strange device the man had dropped. It was metallic, smooth, and covered in glowing lines. When he touched it, the lines lit up and a faint hum filled the air. Lyra leaned closer. "It feels alive." The device projected a faint signal into the air, coordinates written in their alien script. It pulsed like a heartbeat, sending light upward as if calling to the stars. Suddenly, outside the window, the sky flashed. A streak of light cut across the clouds, then another and another. Objects were entering the atmosphere. Lyra whispered, her voice breaking. "They found us." A message from the stars. The ground shook as something vast moved above the clouds. A hologram burst from the pendant again, but this time it was different. A tall figure appeared. an alien dressed in robes of silver and black with the same glowing eyes as the twins. His voice was deep, powerful, and filled with authority. "Children of Orion," the figure said, "you are the last hope of the twin thrones. Your parents are gone. The empire burns. Enemies hunt you across the stars. But your bloodline is not broken. Arin, Lyra, you are the heirs. Return, or the galaxy will fall into darkness." The projection faded, leaving silence. Mr. Harris's hands gripped the arms of his chair. His voice was rough. "Heirs, galaxy. What in God's name is happening?" Lyra trembled. "Our parents. They're gone." Arin's jaw tightened. "And now they want us to return. But if we leave, what happens to Earth?" No one answered. The storm above. That night, the twins stood outside with Mr. Harris. Above the trees, a massive ship moved silently through the storm, its lights scanning the land. Smaller shapes streaked across the sky, landing in the forest with thundering crashes. The war had come to Earth. Arin clenched the pendant in his hand. Lyra held Mr. Harris's arm tightly. For the first time, they understood the truth. They were not just lost children. They were royalty, and royalty always brought enemies. The shadows in the sky promised only one thing. The hunt had begun. The chase, the ground still trembled from the crash in the forest. Trees shook as fire lit up the night sky, and the air carried a low, rumbling hum. Arin and Lyra stood frozen beside Mr. Harris, staring at the massive ship above the clouds. Smaller crafts had already landed, their shadows moving quickly between the trees. "They've come for you," Mr. Harris whispered. His voice shook, but his eyes burned with resolve. "We have to move, now." Arin gripped the glowing pendant, his jaw set. Lyra clutched his arm, her wide eyes reflecting the flames in the distance. "Where will we go?" she asked. Mr. Harris didn't answer. He only grabbed the shotgun from the porch and pointed toward the forest path. "Follow me. Don't stop. Don't look back." Flight through the forest. The three of them ran through the dark woods, their feet crunching leaves and snapping branches. Behind them, the forest came alive with alien machines. Tall, insect-like drones moved through the trees, glowing eyes scanning for heat and sound. Their metallic bodies made soft clicking noises that echoed like whispers. Lyra gasped as one of the drones rose above the tree line, its beam of white light sweeping across the ground. "Down!" Arin hissed, pulling her to the ground. The beam passed only inches away, but it didn't see them. "Not yet." Mr. Harris leaned close. "Keep moving," he whispered. "If they corner us, we don't stand a chance." But as they crept forward, a sharp noise filled the air. A whirring, high-pitched tone that made the ground vibrate. One of the drones had detected them. Suddenly, lights flared across the forest, and the chase began. The powers unleashed. Arin grabbed Lyra's hand and ran faster than he had ever run before. The drone behind them launched a bolt of energy that exploded against the trees, sending wood splinters flying. Mr. Harris stumbled but kept up, his breath ragged. Another drone dropped in front of them, blocking the path, its legs spread wide, glowing red lines sparking with energy. Lyra screamed, her fear spilling out of her like fire. Suddenly the air around them shimmered, light bent, twisting and warping. In an instant, she and the others were cloaked in a veil of invisibility. The drone scanned wildly, unable to see them, though they stood only a few feet away. Mr. Harris's mouth fell open. "Good Lord." Lyra's hands shook as the light cloak flickered, then vanished. She gasped, exhausted, but it had been enough. Arin stepped forward, rage burning in his eyes. He clenched his fists, and the ground beneath him cracked. With a sudden strike of his palm, a wave of force shot out, knocking the drone into the trees. Its body crashed against the trunk, sparks flying. For a moment, there was silence. Then more shadows appeared. Drones, soldiers, dozens of them, closing in from every direction. "The escape route this way," Mr. Harris shouted, leading them toward an old logging road. He had walked this forest his whole life, and he knew the hidden paths. They stumbled through the mud, branches slapping their faces, the sound of pursuit growing louder. Lyra's powers flickered again, bending light to hide them, but each time it drained her strength. Arin fought when he had to, using sudden bursts of force to push back their hunters. But there were too many. At last the trees thinned, and they reached the edge of a wide river. The water rushed fast and deep. "They'll corner us here," Arin said, his chest heaving. "No." Mr. Harris answered, his voice steady. We cross. The twins stared at the raging current. We'll drown, Lyra whispered. Mr. Harris looked at them with fierce eyes. Better to risk the river than fall into their hands. Do you trust me? The twins nodded. Without another word, they stepped into the freezing water. A narrow escape. The river roared around them, pulling them downstream. Mr. Harris struggled to keep his footing, the shotgun barely above the surface. Arin held onto Lyra, his strength keeping her from being swept away. Behind them, the alien drones reached the riverbank. One fired a beam that sizzled across the water, barely missing them. Another took flight, circling above, ready to strike. Arin shouted over the roar of the river, Lyra, the light! With what little strength she had left, Lyra raised her hand. A burst of shimmering energy rippled outward, bending the water's reflection and cloaking them once more. The drones fired blindly, beams crashing into empty waves. By the time the light faded, the three of them had crawled out on the far bank, hidden in the shadows of thick trees. They collapsed, coughing, gasping for breath. Mr. Harris dropped the shotgun beside him and laughed weakly. We made it, he said. By God, we made it. But Arin's face was grim. They won't stop. They'll keep hunting us, and next time they'll be ready. The warship above as they rested, the forest lit up once more. Above the clouds, the massive warship opened its belly, revealing rows of glowing weapons. Smaller crafts poured out like swarms of locusts, scattering across the sky. Lyra shivered. Why us? Why are they chasing us? Mr. Harris put a hand on her shoulder. Because you're more than you know. And because they're afraid of what you might become. Arin gripped the pendant, the twin stars glowing bright in his hand. Then we'll give them a reason to be afraid. The night carried the sound of engines, of soldiers, of war approaching. But beneath the fear, something stronger began to stir inside the twins. For the first time, they were not only running. They were fighting back. The truth, the forest was silent after the chase, but the silence did not bring peace. Arin, Lyra, and Mr. Harris sat beneath the shelter of tall pines soaked from the river. The night sky still glowed faintly with the shadow of the warship above, its lights blinking like the eyes of a predator watching from the dark. They had escaped. For now. But escape was not victory. Arin clutched the pendant tightly, his knuckles white. It still pulsed with a faint glow, the twin star crest shimmering like fireflies trapped in glass. He could feel its weight pulling at him, demanding to be used, demanding to reveal more. Mr. Harris poked the damp firewood, trying to spark a flame. His voice was low, almost tired. We can't keep running forever. If those things want you, then we need to know why. No more secrets. Lyra leaned closer to the pendant, her glowing eyes soft with fear and wonder. It's not just a key, she whispered. It's a message. It's been waiting for us. The hidden memories, as if responding to her words. The pendant brightened. A sudden flash of light filled the clearing. Mr. Harris shielded his eyes, but Arin and Lyra stood still, transfixed. The holographic crest expanded, and this time, the image shifted. A scene appeared, a throne room made of crystal and silver. Two tall figures sat upon the thrones, one man, one woman. Their eyes glowed like Arin and Lyra's. Their faces carried the same star-shaped marks. The woman spoke in the alien language, her voice clear and strong. Lyra's lips moved with the words, as if the memory inside her unlocked their meaning. She says, "She is our mother." Mr. Harris's jaw tightened. "Your mother?" Arin's throat tightened. He could barely speak. Then the man beside her, Lyra nodded, tears glimmering. "Our father, the king of Orion." The vision shifted again. The throne shook as explosions ripped through the palace. Soldiers in black armor stormed the hall. The king and queen stood to fight, their powers blazing. The woman pressed the pendant into the hands of two smaller figures, children. "Arin and Lyra, run," she said. The hologram flickered, then faded. Only the quiet forest remained. The weight of royalty. For a long time, no one spoke. The fire crackled softly. Arin finally broke the silence. His voice was low, heavy with anger. "They're dead. Our parents are gone. And we were hidden here on Earth like lost luggage." Lyra shook her head. "Not lost. Protected. They knew the enemy would come for us. They sent us here to survive." Mr. Harris rubbed his tired face. His heart ached for them, these children he had raised as his own. "So it's true," he whispered. "Your royalty." Heirs to some throne out there in the stars? Arin's eyes burned like silver fire. A throne doesn't matter. What matters is the people who destroyed them. The ones who chased us here. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. But don't you see? That's why they're after us. If we are the heirs, then we're the only ones who can take the throne back. We're a threat. The truth was heavier than the forest air. They were no longer just orphans in hiding. They were the last link to a kingdom at war. The choice, mister. Harris stared into the fire, the lines on his face deepening. You're my family. That hasn't changed. But if this fight follows you, Earth will burn. You'll have to decide, are you children of Earth or heirs of Orion? The words struck like thunder. Arin and Lyra exchanged a look. For years, Earth had been their only home. But now destiny pulled at them like chains. Before either could answer, the pendant flickered again. Another message spilled into the air, this one harsher, broken. A deep voice filled the clearing. Heirs of Orion, we will find you. You cannot hide behind humans forever. The hologram showed a face, an alien general with black eyes and sharp, jagged armor. His mouth curled into a smile. Your kingdom belongs to me now. When I take you, the throne will be sealed forever. Then the image vanished. Lyra shivered. He's the one who destroyed our parents. He's hunting us, Arin clenched his fists. Then we stop running. We fight. The enemy arrives, the night offered no rest. The forest stirred with movement. Engines hummed above. The ground quivered. Mr. Harris stood and loaded his shotgun. They found us again. Arin pocketed the pendant. His eyes gleamed like burning stars. Then this time we don't run. Lyra swallowed hard, fear in her chest but courage in her voice. This time we fight together. Through the trees, shadows moved. Tall, armored figures, their glowing weapons cutting through the dark. Behind them, a low hum grew louder as another ship descended. The truth was clear now. They were not simply prey. They were heirs. And heirs could not hide forever. The battle for Earth and for the galaxy had begun. The battle. The forest no longer felt alive with birds and wind. Instead, it trembled under the heavy steps of armored soldiers moving between the trees. Their glowing weapons cut sharp lines in the dark, and their voices, cold and mechanical, echoed as they searched. Above, the warship blocked out the stars, a giant shadow watching silently. Arin, Lyra, and Mr. Harris crouched low behind a fallen tree. The pendant pulsed faintly in Arin's pocket as if it too knew what was coming. They're too many, Mr. Harris whispered. His voice was steady, but his hands shook as he held the shotgun close. Arin's jaw tightened. We can't run forever. Lyra looked at her brother, her silver eyes glowing faintly. Then tonight we stand. The first clash, the soldiers moved closer. One of them raised a scanner that hummed and lit up in the twins' direction. A harsh voice called out, "Target located!" Dozens of glowing eyes turned toward them. Now, Arin shouted. He rose from behind the log, his hand striking forward. A shockwave burst from his palm, slamming into the soldiers like thunder. The ground cracked, trees bent, and armored figures flew backward into the night. Lyra stepped beside him, her voice steady. She raised her hands and the air shimmered. Light bent around them, cloaking their bodies in shifting colors. Bolts of plasma fired from enemy weapons passed straight through illusions, hitting empty ground. Mr. Harris fired his shotgun, the blast echoing like lightning. The weapon was nothing compared to alien guns, but his courage was unshakable. For a moment they pushed the enemy back, but more soldiers emerged from the shadows, and the clearing filled with glowing fire. The fall of the Guardian Arin fought like a storm, his fists releasing waves that shattered weapons and sent soldiers tumbling. Lyra's illusions blinded their pursuers, turning trees into glowing figures, confusing the enemy's scanners. But the enemy was disciplined. They adapted quickly. One soldier broke through the illusions and fired. Mr. Harris cried out as the blast struck his side. He fell to the ground, blood soaking his shirt. "No!" Lyra screamed, rushing to his side. Arin's rage exploded. His hands shook with power, and the ground itself rose beneath his feet. He hurled a wave of force so strong it shattered a line of soldiers, sending them crashing through the forest like leaves in a storm. The clearing went silent for a heartbeat. Mr. Harris groaned, his face pale. Don't stop," he whispered. "You two, you're more than this. Don't let them win." Tears burned in Lyra's eyes, but she pressed her hand against his wound, trying desperately to use her light to slow the bleeding. Arin stood tall, his fury making the pendant blaze like fire in his pocket. The enemy general. The ground shook as a larger figure stepped forward. The soldiers parted. Towering above them was the alien general from the hologram, his black armor jagged, his eyes cold as the void. "So," the general's voice boomed. "The lost heirs of Orion dare to fight." Arin glared at him. "You killed our parents?" The general's cruel smile revealed sharp teeth. "They were weak, just like you." With a flick of his wrist, he sent a surge of dark energy crackling toward them. Arin raised his hands, and the shockwave met it head-on. The forest lit with fire as the two powers collided. Trees splintered, rocks shattered, and the ground split open between them. Lyra stood behind her brother, her hands glowing with light. She whispered, "We can't beat him alone. Together, Arin." The sibling bond. Arin nodded. For the first time, they reached for each other, not just as brother and sister, but as heirs. Their hands touched, and the pendant between them pulsed. A wave of silver light burst outward, brighter than anything yet. Their powers fused. Arin's force became sharper, stronger, guided by Lyra's control of light. Their energy moved as one. The general staggered as the wave struck him. His armor cracked, sparks spilling into the air. His soldiers fell back, blinded by the glow. Arin and Lyra's voices rose together, echoing with something ancient, something royal. "We are not prey. We are Orion!" The clearing exploded with light and sound. The general was hurled backward, crashing into the trees, a costly victory. When the light faded, the forest lay in ruins. The ground smoked, trees lay broken, and silence replaced the battle cries. Arin and Lyra stood panting, their hands still linked, the pendant glowing between them. But the general rose again. His armor was shattered, his face scarred, but his eyes burned with hate. "This is not over," he growled. "Others will come. You cannot fight them all." He pressed something on his wrist, and a dark beam of light pulled him upward into the sky. In a moment he was gone. The remaining soldiers, leaderless, scattered into the forest, retreating to their ships. For the first time there was quiet, but it was not peace. Aftermath. Lyra dropped to her knees beside Mr. Harris. His breathing was shallow, but he was alive. She pressed her hands against his wound, her light weaving faint patterns over his skin. It wasn't enough to heal him fully, but it slowed the bleeding. "You saved us," she whispered, tears falling onto his shirt. Mr. Harris managed a weak smile. "No, you saved me. Both of you." Arin looked at the sky where the warship loomed. Smaller ships began to retreat, fading into the stars, but he knew this was only the first battle. "They'll come again," he said grimly. "Stronger, with more soldiers. They won't stop until they take us." Lyra took his hand. Her voice was soft but firm. "Then we don't hide anymore. We fight not just for us, but for Earth." Arin nodded, his eyes blazing. "For Earth, for Orion, for everyone." The night wind carried their vow into the trees, while above the dark sky promised more war. The heirs of Orion had revealed themselves. And the galaxy had heard. The ending. The forest smoldered with smoke and broken trees. The battle was over, but the air still carried the taste of fire and fear. Arin and Lyra stood side by side, their hands glowing faintly from the energy they had unleashed. Beside them, Mr. Harris lay weak but alive, his body leaning against a tree. His shirt was torn and blood stained his side, but his eyes burned with the same stubborn will that had raised them all these years. Above them, the warship began to retreat, pulling back into the night sky. Its engines hummed like thunder, disappearing into the stars. For a moment, the world seemed still. "They're gone," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. Arin shook his head. "Not gone. Only waiting," Mr. Harris coughed, then managed a weak laugh. "That's one way to look at it." His face turned serious. "But he's right. They'll come again. And next time, it won't just be soldiers. It'll be war." A world changed when the sun rose over Ashwood the next morning. The town was quiet. Most of the people had slept through the chaos, unaware that a battle for the galaxy had been fought in the woods just beyond their homes. But rumors would spread soon. Strange lights in the sky, explosions that shook the earth, shadows moving where no shadows belonged. Arin and Lyra stood at the edge of the forest, watching the sunrise. Their faces were young, but their eyes looked far older. "This world isn't safe for us anymore," Lyra said softly. "If we stay, more will come. They'll burn this planet trying to get to us." Arin clenched his fists. "Then we make it safe. We fight back." Mr. Harris stepped out of the workshop, his side bandaged with strips of cloth. He looked tired, but his voice was steady. You can't fight this war alone. If you're truly heirs, then you'll need allies. People who believe in you. People willing to fight for you. Lyra's eyes shone. But who would believe us? We're just two orphans in a small town. Mr. Harris placed a hand on her shoulder. Not anymore. You showed me last night what you really are, and I believed in you long before that. Preparing for what comes next, the twins spent the next days tending to Mr. Harris and repairing what they could in the workshop. But their thoughts were far away, pulled toward the stars. At night the pendant glowed on its own, whispering faint voices in their alien tongue. Sometimes Lyra would wake, tears in her eyes, hearing their mother's words echoing in her dreams. Sometimes Arin would clench his fist in anger, seeing visions of the general's mocking face. They were not safe, and safety was no longer their goal. One evening, Arin spread out the holographic map again. The stars shone across the garage wall, patterns of galaxies stretching endlessly. At the center was the crest of Orion, their home, the empire they had never known. Lyra traced a glowing path with her finger. This is where we came from, and this is where the general rules now. Arin's voice hardened. Then one day we go back. We take back what's ours. Mr. Harris listened from the corner. His chest swelled with both fear and pride. He had raised them as his children, and now they were planning to lead a war. You'll need to be ready, he said. Earth won't be enough. You'll need to learn who you are, not just the powers but the leaders inside you. Because if you are truly heirs, people will follow you, and that means you'll carry their lives on your shoulders. Arin met his gaze, and for the first time he didn't see himself as just a boy. He saw himself as something greater, the shadow in space. That night, the twins climbed the hill behind the town. Mr. Harris walked slowly behind them, leaning on a stick but refusing to stay home. Together they stood under the stars, the cool wind brushing against their faces. For a long time, no one spoke. The sky stretched wide above them, endless and silent. Then Arin whispered, "We are not just children of Earth." He lifted the pendant, and its glow reflected in Lyra's eyes. "We are heirs of Orion." Lyra squeezed his hand, her face filled with both fear and courage. "And one day we'll return." Mr. Harris looked at the two of them, silhouetted against the stars. He felt the weight of what was coming. But he also felt hope. For the first time in years, he believed that these children he had found in the forest were not a burden. They were a gift. As they stood in silence, the stars shifted. Far in the darkness, something moved, a shadow darker than space itself. A colossal ship, unlike the warship they had fought, drifted silently beyond the edge of sight. Its hull was jagged, its lights burning red like blood. Lyra gasped, her heart pounding. "Do you see it?" Arin's eyes narrowed. "Yes, and it's coming here." The shadow ship vanished into the void, but its presence lingered like a cold promise. A new dawn. The twins turned back toward the town, the pendant glowing brighter than ever. Their journey was only beginning. The galaxy had lost a king and queen, but it had not lost its heirs. The next battle would be bigger. The next enemy would be stronger, but so would they. And when the time came, Arin and Lyra would not fight as children. They would fight as heirs of Orion. The stars above seemed to listen, waiting for the storm that was yet to come.